So the title of my talk is The Bad News is the Good News. And as you might expect, I'm going to tell you why. But first, I want to read something to you. Any skilled sailor will tell you that the sea is unpredictable. Sometimes the water is flat and serene, and you can see clearly for miles and miles in all directions. It's beautiful, comforting, and you're excited and hopeful about what's on the horizon. Undulating ripples of various heights always come and go. Your job is to flow with them until they level out again. But sometimes massive storms begin forming in the distance with gale force winds and gigantic swells. Some you can see coming, and there's time to batten down the hatches and brace yourself. Others take you completely by surprise, bearing down before you can suck in a big gulp of air and latch onto something. No life vest is anywhere within reach. The boat capsizes and you're thrown overboard, violently thrashed about. Your internal compass is so jostled, it's unable to discern north, nor south, nor east, nor west, much less the surface. After what seems like an eternity, the winds die down, the sea begins to calm, and there's a sliver of sunshine peeking through an opening in the clouds. A shard from the wreckage innocently floats by as if nothing happened. You latch on, clinging to it for dear life. As the cerebral fog begins to lift and the briny water trickles from every orifice above your shoulders, you realize you're alive. Barely. Battered and bruised, but alive. Perhaps a rescue vessel would be along at any minute. But despite this reprieve, you just want to let go, sink beneath the surface into the abyss, and move on. This seems to be the story of my life. The storms becoming more stronger, more ferocious, and increasingly insurmountable as the years pass. Death has got to be better than this. Just let go. This time, I just want to let go. So that is the introduction in my book, I Cried and People Loved Me Anyway. So, how did I get there? In February of 2015, our beloved dog Rocco drowned, the kid's first pet. And when something like that happens, you worry a lot about their mental and emotional state of mind. And due to the circumstances, they weren't there at his transition, nor his burial, and subsequently received no closure. 10 days after that, the love of my life, the first man 11 years post-divorce, whom I had gone all in, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, left, totally out of the blue, with no word at all. I had been struck by the proverbial Mack truck at 100 miles per hour, and I never saw it coming. For months, I tried to sustain a brave front, telling everyone what a wonderful person he was and that he'd been hurt in relationships before, and that this highway accident was probably the best that he could do. But inside, I felt like I had failed. And I gave my kids the same placebo too. I figured, why allow them to be struck by the same Mack truck? They were innocent bystanders, and this wasn't their accident. But inside, I felt like I had led them to my morgue of failure too. 5 days later, my youngest son was scheduled for surgery, and pretty much at the last minute, his dad, my co-parent, decided not to show up. Again, using his anger at me from our divorce as the reason for his impending absence this time. 5 days after that, there's a theme here, the fives, I don't know what that is. I was scheduled to give a talk, and get this one. The title was, "You Just Have to Believe in Yourself Because You Are More Than You Know," just like Momo said. Well, I gave the talk, and it went well, but behind my smile, I was standing in the quicksand of anger, hurt, and stress over the past few months' events. The irony of the timing was not lost on me. Now, I'm a freelance writer, and right around that time, my freelance writing assignments weren't flowing as well, and finances were tight. But you know what? The mortgage company still wants their money. And they started sending letters. And soon those letters had their corporate attorneys, John Hancock, appearing at the bottom. And around that same time, the college search for my oldest child was in earnest, and it all of a sudden struck me that those 17 plus years had indeed gone by in the blink of an eye, and he would be leaving. His brother soon to follow. The empty nest grieving had begun. And if that wasn't enough, there was the stress of months of research and contractor visits and bids for a variety of home improvement projects that needed to be done before the winter set in. And my menopausal power surges were making me literally a hot mess. And there was all the other life stuff. And I'm sure there's some things that I forgot, or perhaps I blocked them out. In December of 2015, the dam holding all of my emotions didn't just break, it violently imploded. 1,000 sticks of dynamite couldn't have done a better job. Why, God? Why? I do my best to be a good person. I meditate. I pray. I read New Thought books. I seek the counsel of others. I share my abundance. I practice forgiveness. I try so hard. And I follow and wholeheartedly believe in the spiritual principles taught in places just like this, just like in Unity of Marin, where we are perfect expressions of God and we are divinely guided in every way and that we have all the tools we need to live a happy and fulfilling life. Yet still I cried out, why is all of this happening to me? And I had seen and experienced that truth in my life and the lives of others. At the same time, I was beating myself up with, what is your deal, Lysa? Your house wasn't destroyed in a flood. There's no terminal medical diagnosis in your family. Other people have lost spouses of 30, 40, 50 years and gone on with their lives. All of those things are horrible, but you have clothing, resources, roof over your head, transportation, so why can't you pull it together? In my family of origin, the motto was, what happens in your house, you got it, stays in your house. And showing your emotions was highly discouraged. I would go so far as to say, bordering on forbidden. Now, there's no blame in there anymore, but it's no wonder I never learned how to deal with adversity. By then, I really knew what it meant when people talk about the dark night of the soul. The depression was utterly overwhelming. I lost 20 pounds. I wasn't eating or sleeping well. I was crying all the time, and sometimes I could hardly hold it together for more than a few minutes at a time. And I was trying really, really hard to hide all of this from my kids. Soon, my inner dialogue went something like this. Lysa, you can't do anything right. Why did you think some man would stick around to love you? You're a horrible mother. You're not smart enough. This all hurts too much to get out of it this time. So let's just be done with it, because you're not serving any purpose here anyway. Oddly enough, there was one sliver of light, a small sliver of light. What about my kids? I had seen what departures of your own volition do to those you leave behind, and I just knew that I couldn't do that to them. Well, great. Now the box, in which I already thought I was closed in, squeezed in so tightly that I was completely immobile, paralyzed by fear, and hopeless. Now, it might be a little bit presumptuous of me, but judging by the looks on your faces and all the air that got sucked out of the room, you're probably thinking, oh my God, I feel worse than I did before she started talking. She said she had some good news, so when is she going to get to that? Well, maybe you haven't been listening. And in your defense, I wasn't listening at first either. All of that, every tear, every disappointment, every panic attack, all of it was the good news. I was just too caught up in my humanity to see it. In the book Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping, any of you who've read the book, you'll resonate with what I'm getting ready to say, but if you haven't, I highly recommend you get this book, Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping. And he says that in the world of divine truth, the human experience is meant to be an emotional one. So the extent to which we deny our feelings is the extent to which we deny our purpose for being here. Life is not random, he says. It provides for the purposeful unfoldment of our own divine plan, with opportunities to make choices and decisions in every moment guided by our higher self and ego. Situations that appear to be the worst that could actually befall us may hold the key to our healing something deep within us that keeps us from being happy and prevents our growth. He says that if we are to transform anything, we must be able to experience it completely and fully. There is no shortcut. Therefore, we need situations in our lives that allow us to feel victimized so we can transform the energy through radical forgiveness. When my dam burst to bits, that is when my healing and transformation began. I believe the universe was inviting me to surrender, not like this, but open like this. So here are a few things that I learned that are for you too. First, you are going to need to reach out for help. Even though it may seem like it at the time, you are not the only one going through what you're going through in your life. Everyone, every single person on this planet is going to go through an extremely difficult situation in their life. And spoiler alert, more than once. You might have to go to counseling, or in my case, back to counseling, again. Third time's a charm. When you pray and meditate, you are really going to have to listen to how the universe responds, because it is going to do so at the level at which you reach out. So if you are coming from a place of unworthiness and anger and hurt and low self-worth, everything in your experience is going to mirror that. But it's when you can raise your vibration, even if only a little bit at first, to live into the perfect expression of God that you are. That is when you start to reach a higher level of consciousness. I was forced to be vulnerable and take a good hard look at some of my beliefs, not just about things, but about myself, and how I was living small to please others and to make them feel comfortable with me. But in the process, I wasn't living authentically at all. I was the one who had to become comfortable with me. Because we are human, we're not perfect. And the more we try to run around doing everything perfectly and not showing everyone our flaws, the more we are robbing ourselves of living an authentic life. There's a saying that when something is cracked or broken, that's when the light can come through. And that light is an opportunity for new reflections and possibilities. If any of you are familiar with the Japanese practice of kintsukuroi, they believe that when something is broken, like let's say maybe a pot, and where the cracks are, they fill it with gold. And then they believe now that the piece is even more beautiful than before it was broken. Like I said, that light, that broken area, is an area for new reflections and possibilities. And believe it or not, it is there where you are more powerful than you have ever been. Those cracks are your healing. And if you don't remember anything else about what I'm saying today, I want you to remember this. Do not give up. Do not give up. If the infinite presence and power that created everyone and everything in the universe gave us the dreams, goals, and desires of our heart, who are we to try and give them back? To not live into the fullness of the expression of God that we are. Now, at the time I was going through all of this in my life, I conceptually knew all of that. But for some reason, I just couldn't grasp any of it. But those are the times when I and you have another opportunity to practice our spiritual practice. I've heard it described as having like a savings account or an escrow account where you can dip in there when you need resources for the little things that happen in life. Like when the lawnmower breaks or you chip a tooth or something like that, those little things that happen. And we can also tap into that for the bigger things in life, like when the water heater goes out or a tree falls on the car or you fall down the stairs, the bigger things that happen. Author Daniel Laporte once wrote that we don't need to forgive until we need to forgive. And we don't need nerves of steel until we need nerves of steel. And we don't need to dip into our reserves of compassion or fortitude or faith until we've used up everything else. And this is why we maintain our spiritual practice. Because, folks, those times are going to come when we're going to have to make a withdrawal. But that bank is always there and available to us. It is God, Spirit, whatever you call your guiding presence, and it never leaves us. So back to my story. What were the blessings in each one of those experiences I went through? In the world of divine truth, death is an illusion. Our dog Rocco is still here in spirit. He was unconditional love and joy in every way, shape, and form, and we will always have that gift from him, even if he's not here in physical form. In the world of divine truth, the abrupt end to my relationship was to show me a very deep-seated belief that I didn't even know that I had, was that men leave. Daddy was the first. I see now why there were so many others. But that would be glossing over the fact that I did have a successful 10-year relationship in marriage and all the other relationships before and after that run their natural course and season. In the world of divine truth, my frustration over my ex-husband's behavior spoke to another hidden belief, and that was that life is all up to me. I can't trust anybody, and I'm out here all by myself. But God is guiding my steps, every one of them along the way, even if I can't see where those steps are going. In the world of divine truth, a big part of the financial strain I underwent was partly because of things imposed upon me, upon my family, things in society that say, you are not good enough just the way you are. So you're not worth it, and you're not going to be successful. But we've all been successful in a variety of ways in our life, all the time, whether it's financial or relationships or career, or whatever it is. We do have successes in our life. It's just the story that we're telling ourselves. In the world of divine truth, my anguish over my sons getting ready to leave the nest, their names are Joseph and William, and they're now 23 and 21. My anguish about them getting ready to fly the coop was a reminder that they were not given to me for me to hold on to them forever. Just like me, they are here for their own purposes. My only job was to raise them and let them soar. Somebody told me your job as a parent is to work yourself out of a job. And showing them my flaws, by the way, is showing them how to deal with adversity and also helps them better learn how to navigate both the rough and calm seas of life. Whatever happens, whatever they do, wherever they go, whatever decisions they make, I'm still a good mother. Now, don't get me wrong, this part of my ongoing transformation was not always easy. It wasn't like a light bulb went on and I said, oh, good, oh, I got it, all done. At times it was slow, excruciating, and had all the self-defeating properties of 2 steps forward and 4 steps back. But it still helped me build a new foundation on which I could more easily learn to live in the world of divine truth. The only right and true belief system, that my very existence is love, and I have never and will never be separate from God, and neither will you, because we are all one. Evidence of this divine truth showed up at the onset of my black hole breakdown when scores of people from near and far, some I knew really well, some I didn't know well at all, gently circled the wagons, showing up for me in ways I couldn't have possibly imagined. You see, my light hadn't been extinguished at all. It's just that I had allowed the dark clouds of life that flow by now and again to hang out over my head far longer than they needed to show me what I needed to learn and to lead me to my next level of higher consciousness. So I have one last piece of good news for you. Those clouds will surely come again, some potentially yanking the rug right out from under you, leaving you sprawled on the floor, looking up, saying, "What happened?" But it is in those times, in our new higher consciousness and firm roots in the world of divine truth, it is in those times that we can stop, take a moment to surrender to what is, and know that this latest set of bad news is not happening to you. It is happening through you and for you. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I have a few affirmations. I'll say each one first, and then if you would, I invite you to repeat after me. I am worthy. I am divine. I am a perfect expression of God. I am love. I am. Thank you.